It's always been the case that with the combination of Speaker Mike Johnson and Donald Trump, frankly, whipping Republican votes, it would mean their bill would likely pass. And it did in the wee hours in the morning. But here's the thing. Republican House members, including those in swing districts, have now publicly committed themselves to this sort of overflowing basket of genuinely, horrifically unpopular positions. Even more tax cuts for the rich, including folks with $25 million estates they're inheriting. They're going to kick 14 million people off Medicaid and trigger $500 billion in cuts to Medicare, not to mention what's going to happen to interest rates like mortgages and credit card rates. So it's out of the House now, and it goes to the Senate, where they will do their own thing with this bill. The question now is what Democrats in the Senate and what interest groups and citizens can do to slow it down, publicize all the nasty bits in the bill, and make Republicans sweat. Senator Ed Markey, Democrat of Massachusetts, joins me now. Senator, you're the veteran of a bunch of legislative fights on both the minority and majority side. Been on the wrong side of some, been on the right side of some. This got out of the House. A bunch of Senate Republicans already saying, "Look, the House bill's DOA. We're going to do our own thing here." What's your read on the strategy here, the leverage point Senate Democrats have to slow this down and to let the American people know what's in this legislation?
Well, of course, in the House, they eviscerated our clean energy future. They took the IRA, the bill from 2022 that has unleashed a clean energy revolution in our country, and they have, for all intents and purposes, killed it. But unfortunately for senators from red states, they're going to have to deal with the fact that $642 billion, 75% of all of the money from the IRA has gone to red states, and only $182 billion, 25%, to blue states. So the jobs by hundreds of thousands are being created in red states. And so if you're a red state governor or mayor, you're going to have a senator who is going to be looking very closely at the harm that they're going to inflict upon their major city or upon the long-term economic growth in their state. This is basically jobs of the future, careers of the future that are opening up on vast numbers all across red states. And it's going to be very difficult, I think, for some of these Republican senators to be able to easily vote for this bill. But the same thing will be true for the cuts to Medicaid. 50% of all children in the United States are on Medicaid. It's going to be an incredibly difficult thing, I think, for some of the senators to be able to say cavalierly, I'm cutting out our clean energy future. Cutting Medicaid dramatically in order to give tax breaks to billionaires, to millionaires in our country. The three billionaires that sat right behind Donald Trump at the inauguration, Bezos and Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, they control more wealth than the bottom 50% of our entire country. They do not need a tax break, and especially it cannot come at the expense of our clean energy future, Medicaid, or the SNAP program, or many of the other vital programs that blue-collar Americans, white, black, Hispanic, and Asian rely upon on a daily basis. It would be politically very perilous.
I want to just show these numbers that you mentioned because New York Times had a really interesting chart today about where these sort of investments in clean energy. This has not gotten as much. I mean, the big structure of the bill, which is that big tax cuts for the rich, cuts to SNAP and Medicaid for everyone else, right? That I think is understood broadly. What they're trying to do, the IRA, is really gut it. And here's the sort of top line numbers, just to be clear. $642 billion in Republican House districts, only 187 in Democratic House districts. Now, here's what I would say to you, and I am curious whether you think the math is different. That didn't seem to make a difference to the members of the House who were sort of eagerly chopping off investment in their own districts, throwing people in their own districts off of Medicaid and throwing them off SNAP. Do you think it makes more of a difference in the Senate, where you've already have folks like Josh Hawley saying it's a mistake to cut Medicaid?
Well, again, that's the question. Are Republicans going to have conscience and courage? We don't know that yet. Obviously, in the House, it didn't happen. But I think in the Senate, if we can make the case very strongly that it's not only bad for the economies of their home states, but it's also bad for the politics of 2026, where people can lose their seats if they engage in such reckless political behavior. So that's going to be our challenge, and we have to engage our Republican colleagues, let them know about all of the benefits that can accrue to their home states, and especially in this clean energy sector, where it's pretty obvious that 3/4 of the benefits are flowing to red states. And again, it is something that is a reflection of the dramatic change that happened in our country even last year, where 94% of all new installed electrical generation capacity in our country was wind, solar, and batteries. And in our country, most of it was basically manufactured in red states. And so the job has to be to make that case to them, in addition to the manufacture of all electric vehicles. That too is happening disproportionately in red states in our country. So if they want to cut off their economic future, their lifeline for the next generation of their citizens, then they should understand that there could be big political consequences for them if they engage in such reckless activity.
I want to ask you about an institution that is in the state that you represent that has been in the news, Harvard University, of course, targeted by the president. They've gone through a bunch of reasons they've targeting it, although at one point he posted on Truth Social that they had too many liberals there, and I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons. Today, the Department of Homeland Security essentially revoked a kind of pro forma ability that the university has to sort of certify foreign students. Just flatly revoked it. This is what Harvard said in response to Kristi Noem revoking this, which is clearly punitive, retaliatory, because Harvard wouldn't bend the knee. They have instead sued the Trump administration for its efforts against them. The government's actions unlawful. We are fully committed to maintaining our ability to host international students and scholars who hail from more than 140 countries and enrich the university and this nation immeasurably. This retaliatory action threatens serious harm to Harvard community and our country, undermines Harvard academic research mission. And I should say that Kristi Noem gave an interview today basically saying every other university is on notice. What do you think of this?
Well, again, this is authoritarianism on steroids. This is an attempt to intimidate universities across our nation. They began at Harvard by saying that they were going to strip away the research grants for Alzheimer's and cancer and diabetes and all of the other diseases that run through the genetic code of Americans and those across the planet, where Harvard was at the cutting edge. And now they've gone a step further and say, no, we're going to keep out all of your international students, which, by the way, is about a third of the student body. So this is all a part of the authoritarian playbook that Trump has been seeking to execute right from January 20th on. The problem that he has and that he's been running into all along is that we do have a United States Constitution that in the Fifth Amendment requires due process with regard to any charge which is brought against any individual or institution. We actually have immigration laws in terms of the protection of international students as well. And by the way, these students do have First Amendment rights of free speech, which they are also seeking to circumscribe. So all of those are going to be protections which ultimately will result in Harvard winning this case, but it's really meant to send a chilling effect to academic institutions all across this country, and that's why we have to fight every single day against this dictator who is seeking to corrupt the very foundation of our constitutional government.